Holly has found someone new.
Sorry I scared you.
Someone very secret.
It's very romantic.
Someone who hides from us all. Another self, a deeper, darker side that is capable of the unimaginable.
Fear, anger, hatred, the darkest, most primal
part of her no longer hides inside.
Look, just don't touch me. Don't confuse me with her. She may look like me, but she's not me.
It has awakened and taken control.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey.
Thought I lost you for a minute. I'm like, what the heck is going on
here? Because people are texting me so that it pauses the recording every time.
Lovely.
So very important.
This week we'll be discussing the horror, thriller, comedy classic, Doppelganger.
You're throwing the word classic around there a bit.
Pretty liberal with it. Starring Drew Barrymore and, frankly, a bunch of actors who look vaguely familiar.
Dude, that the male co-star, I thought, I was like, oh, I told you. And then I went to his filmography. I'm like, I've never seen any of these. Why do do I only know him from this?
The people you definitely know are obviously Drew Barrymore,
of course,
and Sally Kellerman, who's in about 2 minutes of this movie, are the two people who you definitely know.
Exactly.
The main guy, you're like, oh, he's very familiar, and then you realize, oh, he is merely Paul Rudd's doppelganger.
You're right.
He's a fall, is what he is.
He's Paul Rudd's doppelganger.
See, it all comes around.
Which one's the evil one?
That's the question, right?
Uh-huh.
It's very sad. We'll talk more about the cast a little bit later. Oh, God. Go ahead. Sweet Jesus.
Wait, are you having some kind of a seizure? What's happening there?
I'm having an episode. Tell the audience the 3-second summary of Doppelganger.
All right. Cutie patootie, little Drew Barrymore moves into a new town after mysterious circumstances and what appears to be the murder of her mother by her. She rents this place. Clearly she's got money, but she tries to move into the shittiest version of Melrose Place possible. And
one-bedroom apartment.
One-bedroom apartment. Well, where are you sleeping? Well, I don't really sleep. Oh, okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and move in here. It seems like a totally rapeable situation.
Exactly.
And she's weird as hell. I don't care how cute you are. It's not like she's weird in a sexual, freaky way. No, she's just weird as in, like, this person appears to be crazy. But, of course, he had sex with her anyway. So anyway, we don't know what's going on. She's referring to this doppelganger, which you think she's even crazier. Meanwhile, you find out she's got this giant mansion. So why are you renting a shitty apartment from the doppelganger of Paul Rudd when you can be living in a mansion?
Yeah.
Unexplained. She's got some brother who's in some kind of quasi-vegetative state. Unless you murder him, then he screams.
Then he wakes up.
Then he suddenly wakes up, but oh well.
They didn't try that treatment, evidently.
Apparently they forgot the fear factor treatment. Anyway, she's got a psychiatrist from New York who comes out to take care of her. She gets involved with various murders. Her roommate sleeps with her. Oh, that wasn't me. You keep your filthiness with her away from me. That should have been here's your notice.
Right.
Here's your notice. Move the hell out. Nope. In the end, there's no doppelganger, but is there a doppelganger? She doesn't have an evil twin, but yet mysteriously, because of all this trauma, she melts and becomes one of the two of the aliens from Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Then they meld back together, and everyone lives happily ever after.
This movie had a lot going on. Let's just say
too much going on, and too bad it wasn't good acting, a story that was coherent. I mean the premise except for the end, of course. Could be interesting. Could be interesting.
Okay.
We don't know.
The evil twin premise, basically, is what you're hoping.
Used by every soap opera since the dawn of time. There was always an evil twin that mysteriously showed up on General Hospital, One Life to Live, The Young and the Restless, whatever it was, Days of Our Lives. At some point, there was an evil twin.
That's pretty standard.
I mean, they didn't all have a weather machine. Only one of them, as far as I know, had a weather machine. But they all had a mysterious twin.
A weather machine. I had never heard of this movie. Our cousin Heather suggested this is one of her favorite movies. Is that what it was?
She said it was very entertaining.
Okay.
I, in fact, had seen this, when cable TV was still young and fresh and you didn't quite have as many channels and now they had to fill 24 hours. This would be one of the movies that they would fill the time with. You'd
be watching it on Cinemax at 2 a.m. Is that what you're trying to say?
You don't have a remote control and you really don't want to get up. So the next thing you know, you're in the middle of a movie because all you want to do is lay on your couch and decompose. So yeah, that would be one of them where you're like, well, I don't want to watch it, but I don't want to get up.
I'm going to subject myself to this. I
can't find the remote, so I'll just watch this.
You're better off just throwing your boot at the screen at that stage of the game. Like I said, I'd never heard of Early Drew Comeback Trail. No, it's Early Drew Comeback Trail because she has brown hair. That's where she was trying to turn the page.
Good. I totally remember that kind of auburn brown with the matching like super dark lipstick. I remember rocking that back in the day. Everybody I know had that crazy like mahogany colored hair. It was fantastic. Burnt umber, Ultrex burnt umber for you artists out there.
Lovely.
Well, one of the highlights is I'm going to talk about her great hair dye job, which I had with the matching like super dark lipstick that I would get at Lancome, and I would be super awesome. I think our sister Tara was a brief kind of dark redhead at this point too, as was the style of the early 90s. We're still have a touch of the 80s, but now we're going with darker colors.
This is early 90s. This is important.
This is like 93.
That's right.
So there's just, it's still 93 means you're still 25% of the 80s.
That's correct.
I think this is maybe pre-grunge, but we're working our way with that dark lipstick. That's how you can trace. First dark lipstick, and then the next thing is flannel and ripped jeans, and chain wallet. So there you go.
Lovely.
That's a highlight because that totally gives you a little slice of life.
Interesting. A slice of life. What about the plot? Why don't we talk about that for a minute?
I'm not sure there is a plot, but there is some interesting weirdness. The thing with the doppelganger, and is she there and she's staring? Honestly, I'm not sure, why was the Drew Barrymore doppelganger across the restaurant staring at the roommate? What was the psychiatrist is just staring at him? What was that?
Okay, well, that's the thing. Okay, Drew Barrymore is dealing with a lot of stuff here, okay? She seems to have dissociative identity disorder, multiple personalities. She also seems to have, by the end of the movie, we also discover she's got a murderous therapist who wears disguises.
Yeah, most expert, Rick Baker and kind should take advice from the crazy psychiatrist. The man of 1,000 murders. He's 5'4". He's 6'2". It's amazing.
So we figure early on she just has multiple personalities. When she was being amorous with him, it didn't seem like she was being slutty. It seemed like she was being kind of sweet and affectionate.
She was exactly the same person who'd been driving around with him all day. Totally normal.
I mean, she was definitely being a little forward, but it wasn't like what are you doing? So she good Lord.
I'm jumping right
Go
in.
for it.
This
Jump
is
in.
my case. Whenever she's dressed like Jackie O, I say she's a psychiatrist because I don't remember her dressing like Jackie O when she's like with her roommates and stuff.
That is true. Here's the counterpoint to that. Okay, the beginning of the movie, she does have two distinct personalities. Also, because remember, she is the one who kills her mother, not the doctor in disguise. And while it's going down, she's got the bloody nose and weird, like slimy, like webbed fingers. She murders her mother, who we hear over the phone is plotting her death. She's going to get all the money. We got to kill her. I'm going to kill my own daughter for a few more dollars. And
you're right. You're
Drew
right.
Barrymore in the Jackie O attire shows up and murders her with a knife. Now, it is determined later in the movie that the psychiatrist, who she's also like in a relationship with, a sexual relationship, found out that the mom was going to kill her and kind of worked Drew Barrymore up with one of her psychotic personalities to murder the mother, which she does. So I don't know if there's just like a knapsack with the Jackie O clothing in it, with the headscarf and the dark glasses, and they just share it. I'm not sure how it works, honestly.
All right, beyond the murder, let me re-clarify.
Yes,
I don't see that. So did the psychiatrist who set her up to do all this then claim it as part of his fetish kit, or I don't know. I mean, we find out his ultimate dream is to have her in an institution that he runs so he can have her all to himself.
I mean, it's because you're constantly wondering, why is he so invested in her murdering these people? Drew Barrymore, I need you to murder your mother. Done. Okay, I can't get to you because you've got a roommate that's spending too much time with you. I'm going to dress up in your disguise. I'm going to dress up to look like you. I'm going to sneak into the hospital. I'm going to attempt to, who's in a vegetative state and is the only other heir to any of the money. So maybe it's less about the money and more about, if I can pin this murder on you, then you'll go to my institution for the rest of your life, control you or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think in the end, because he does plant the knife in her apartment. So yes. It's the double wham. It is the money and her. But how is she? I mean, there's got to be some kind of a deal, like, if you murder someone, how do you get to inherit that money? I mean, maybe there's no big deal. Do you have to put in your will, like, you know, if, say, one of your children murders the other, they can't benefit? I mean, I guess that's true. Companies don't usually pay out, but who knows?
No, you're right. It's an either-or situation. If he pins the murder on her, then there's no way she gets that money. You can't murder everybody and get their inheritances. So maybe it is just about forcing her back into his arms. Because that's a whole nother weird thing where it's like, we see them together. Like, beginning of the movie, it's established they're in a sexual relationship. There's like this slow motion, like with the Enigma background. Well,
oh my God! I gotta tell you, I couldn't figure out what that music was. I Googled I was like, is that the church? Is that the ministry? Is it this? Is it this? Enigma.
That's the one.
God damn it!
So there.
I was asking everybody, I'm like, you know that one song with the chanting and the. And everybody could hum it.
Yep.
But nobody could say the words Enigma.
Enigma had a couple bizarro hits in the early to mid 90s. So enjoy.
It's all that early electronica dance music. It's all good stuff.
Yeah. Well, that song, they had the Benedictine monks chanting in the background and all sorts of stuff. Well, that's the other song you're mixing up. There's another Enigma song where it's like Native American chanting in it. So there you go.
No, I'm thinking oh my God, I didn't know. Did they have a whole album?
They had a whole album. Yes.
Is it called Chant? Like
I think it is.
Chant?
I don't know. That's a bridge too far. So it's established she's in this relationship with her therapist, right? Later in the movie, he comes to LA to see her, and you can't really tell what their relationship is at that point. basically. She's not like, honey, it's you. But it's also not kind of like, how dare you take advantage of me? It's just kind of like,
No.
She just kind of reacts to him like he's her therapist.
No, I will tell you, to me, it's like someone who's clearly was in a relationship that was wrong or molesty, and now you're trying to put some distance between it, where it's like the touch causes you to get the willies.
Okay.
That's the vibe I was getting.
I was
like
getting
a molesty vibe.
I was getting a not a fully well-rounded character kind of vibe, is what vibe I was getting.
Well, that is a good vibe, but it is interesting because before the murder, everyone clearly knew they were in this relationship, which would cause him to lose his license because it's not ethical,
right?
And like they were going to get married, and now it's like a stranger, whatever,
right?
With no explanation.
No explanation. Why? And she refers to him as my doctor. Like one point,
not my lover,
who also happens to be my doctor. So when she shacks up with false Paul Rudd in the kitchen, she throws herself at him. He wakes up the next day and is like, hey, hon, and tries to snuggle. She's like, get away from me. That was my doppelganger that you were knocking the boots with, essentially.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
I everything I know is from TV. But usually the one personality doesn't know what the other personality is doing.
Maybe this is different, right? A doppelganger is different than multiple personality disorders.
So are you saying he had sex with a psychiatrist?
I'm not saying that, but it's hard to say.
That is an elaborate costume.
I'm not taking it off the table. Let's just say that. I'm not taking it off the table. No, well, she said, that's my doppelganger. And he's like, what? What are you talking? And then she says, my doctor believes me in my doppelganger. He went to Yale. He should know.
Yeah. He should know. He went to Yale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Now I believe you. Got it. Again, you moved in yesterday. You moved in yesterday to share my 1-bedroom apartment, even though you're independently wealthy and could just get an apartment at the Beverly Hills Hotel or something. You're going to share my shanty. And we're knocking the boots.
Filthy
my drug den. And we're knocking the boots. And now you're throwing at me that you're nuts. Let me add this to the list. Okay, good to know. Thanks for sharing. Wah, wah, wah.
All right, I have... Oh, no, I don't have. I have some interesting questions, but now my mind has slightly erased all of that.
Do you want to go?
Continue on. Let's see if I can jump back in.
Okay. Later in the movie, there's the big showdown at the mansion that she owns. Evidently, she's come to L.A. to kind of deal with her family estate, right? Both her parents are dead.
From New York?
From New York to Los Angeles. Both of her parents are dead. Her only living relative is her vegetative brother, basically.
We discover that it is the therapist. He has a room full of masks.
Of Halloween masks. The plastic Halloween masks that magically allow him to totally take the place, size, shape, height, doesn't matter, of multiple characters we've met during the course of this movie.
Exactly. Like 6 or 7 different people.
Yes.
So he's Drew Barrymore. He's Drew Barrymore's dad. He's like
the FBI agent next door.
The FBI agent.
The gas man.
Which none of it. Why was the gas man there?
Who knows?
What was the purpose?
When it is
for no reason, really. Why do we need all these disguises? He's just sniffing around to see if she's sleeping with fake Paul Rudd. Is that?
Well,
it?
Here's the other thing: got a mask of her dead father, and runs around town wearing it. And
and then there was all that molesty stuff.
Yes. Well, there's that. The father died, hustle with the younger brother when he was 11 and fell out the window. But it was because the reason why she's got like multiple personality disorders because her father was molesting her at a very young age. That's what caused her.
In all the multiple personality movies, because this is what I'm basing everything on, it's always some repressed sexual long-term abuse.
It's a molestino on the case, basically.
So it's a pure molestino, yeah.
He also finds the mask to Drew Barrymore. So now we know some of the that Drew Barrymore was running around with the headscarf. It was the doctor, and this is when the doctor reveals the whole. Just
like a Bond villain.
Yes.
Ah, Mr. Bond, and now before I kill you, I will now tell you everything.
This doctor is about the least physically intimidating person I've ever seen. He's about 5'6".
He's about
120 pounds.
He's about an inch taller than Drew Barrymore.
Light as a feather. But he gets the drop on false Paul Rudd. Beats him up and says, let me tell you everything. Okay, I've been having an affair with...
Yeah, false Paul Rudd, I think, is even less athletically inclined than real Paul Rudd.
It's a Doppelganger Rudd.
It's a Doppelganger.
So he tells the whole plot. Yes, I was having an affair with Drew Barrymore and I love her and I'm obsessed with her. Yes, I worked her up because she has multiple personalities to kill the mother. I was the one who tried to kill the brother the other night, did not succeed. I've been the one wearing the mask, chasing you around town all day. But it's because I love her and I want her to be with me, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to kill you.
Meanwhile, Drew Barrymore is laying on a couch covered in mayonnaise and glitter, listening to all this until she freaks out and starts screaming.
Right. So at this point, you're like, oh, there really isn't an evil twin. It's always been the doctor. Au contraire.
Au contraire,
So she starts twisting and squirting like a Slim Jim, and something happens. She splits in two and becomes kind of a weird blood thing that looks like something out of Jim Henson's Creature Workshop. Slops around.
Exactly.
Like, it's like...
It's coat hangers and like Fimo.
Yeah.
Covered.
It's not his best work. Let's just say that. That guy promptly picks up Dr. Heller, the therapist, throws him out the window. He gets impaled on the wrought iron fence. He's about to kill faux Paul, but does not. Comes to her senses.
It was like Terminator, where you can see in their eyes, not a threat.
Not a threat.
And then it goes like it's going to go hump itself, because it goes back to the other twin. They get all jiggy with each other and they merge back into the slop that is now Drew Barrymore.
Correct. The good thing is Drew Barrymore was wearing a white dress before the split. When the creature slimes back together, the white dress reappears. So that's helpful. So
that's nice. It
cleans up good. So that's where you're literally like, what am I watching? What has happened?
It went from like a murder mystery to what the
like a really lousy murder mystery to what the F.
Did you see how I covered up the saying the fuck word there?
I appreciate the thought, if not the effort. Oh God.
Karen doesn't like all my salty swearing.
It's a sad situation. There's a scene earlier in the movie. So early in the movie, Paul Rudd, I'm just going to call him Paul Rudd now. This is where we're at right now. Paul Rudd is invited to one of those Hollywood parties with his writing partner / ex-girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah, she was irritating. And Drew Barrymore basically says, hey, can I come too? And Paul Rudd refused. Because why not?
What else are you going to do? Stranger. Exactly. Paul Rudd doesn't want to dance with her. He's like, I don't really dance. What is happening?
I'm sorry. I'm turning off my iPad. It's your sister.
Good times. I thought I was having a psychotic episode for a minute
there. Don't start.
I might.
Man. It's messy.
Drew Barrymore just still decides she wants to dance. So she goes out to the middle of the dance floor and starts doing an erotic dance by herself. And you see all the skeevy dudes like literally line up and they're all staring at her, like licking their lips. It was.
Oh my God! It was like Bad Swingers. It was
awful. At one point, the guy whose party it was is so disturbed by her dancing that he throws his drink on the woman next to him. And I swear to God, it was like a jug full of marinara. It's like he just basically dumped this on her. Drew Barrymore, of course, sees this woman dipped in marinara and flips out because she's having flashbacks of her mom getting murdered. So.
No Italian food for her.
It was literally like a bucket of marinara. It was like Carrie is what we were dealing with here. What are you drinking, pal? Anyway, I just noticed that scene. Good times.
That's your favorite.
My favorite scenes.
Oh yeah, this is definitely pre Me Too movement, where the skeezy producers is basically grabbing the woman by the you know what, in the hopes of her getting in an audition or something.
There's a lot of that.
Oh my god, it was so creepy.
In that period of time where it was like this was kind of Basic Instinct adjacent, you know what I mean? So it was kind of like we're going for like an erotic thriller,
dangerous women
erotic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of close-ups of Drew Barrymore's like kind of passionate face, kind of moaning, like it's Red Shoe Diaries or something.
I never saw Red Shoe Diaries, but Skinamax,
it was total
wasn't
Skinamax. Now, later in the movie, you see a lot of Drew Barrymore's skin in this. Like
I blocked all that out. You said you saw her.
You see him a couple times.
I completely blocked.
You do. One time she's taking a shower.
Like side boobs or like
you
areolas?
See the full Megillah, the full Monty.
All
she's
right.
in the shower.
I must have
washing herself. You see a little bit like during the sex scene. It's not a lot, but it's a lot when you're not expected to see any from old Drew.
Exactly. Normally, I think you'll ever see
that's
it
the
again.
thing. This was at that time, and we've talked about this before, where, okay, obviously she was in E.T. and Cat's Eye and Irreconcilable Differences and a few other things in the early 80s. Then she kind of disappeared. She was doing drugs and all sorts of bad things.
She was in rehab,
by 13. In 92, she did Poison Ivy, which was supposed to be her kind of big comeback thing where she was kind of like a Lolita type, like a dangerous preteen kind of thing.
Right.
A year later, she was doing this. She did like the Amy Fisher story on ABC.
Love it. Where's
Joey Buttafuoco?
I'm going to have to Google that.
Buttafuoco.
Oh my God, I'm going to get a pet.
You should. Then she did this. Okay, so this was still kind of like, oh, isn't that interesting? There's that former child actor, Drew Barrymore. This was not, I'm a big star, Drew Barrymore, just yet. You know what I mean? That didn't come until later.
And the acting
shows it. The scripts that she says line up for this. And the other thing is, she is my age. In 93, I graduated from high school. So I think she turned 18 of like February that year. So she is just barely.
Well, dude, you got to remember, she was emancipated at 14. At 14 years old, she was living by herself, supporting herself.
Yes. Well, she learned, we're jumping right into behind the scenes. She learned about emancipating yourself from your parents because she was in that movie, Irreconcilable Differences. That's where she got the idea, and she actually did it. Which is interesting that she threw a part to her mom in this movie, who she was emancipated from. So there you go.
Well, I think that's that curse. Like, even when you have a monster parent, you always hope that somehow it's all going to work out in the end. And sadly, it doesn't.
I mean, like I said, the actors in this movie are like, oh, that's somebody who looks like somebody I've seen. And then you look at their IMDb page, and you're like, oh, no. I mean, I guess maybe I watched one episode of Silk Stockings back in 94.
Law and Order, Murder Victim number 3.
Basically, we're like, maybe I happened to see this person in something. But it wasn't like, oh, yeah, they were the star of this. There's none of that, which is very sad. And frankly, I even looked at like the writer/director of this movie, and they had done nothing I'd ever heard of again. You know what I'm saying? There really isn't much in terms of behind the scenes. I know this is the last film of George Maharis, if you remember him.
George Maharis.
He was a famous actor from like the 50s and 60s. His biggest claim to fame was that he had a George Michael type incident in a public restroom back in '72.
You're gonna have to.
That's all I'm giving you.
The name sounds super familiar. Who was it? Who was he?
He was the lawyer who's like in two scenes. The old lawyer guy, Mike Wallace, which is kind of a funny name to choose for the old lawyer. He meets her at the mansion. Yes, I'm here to help you.
Oh yeah, he was all creepy. Yeah. All right.
I mean, that's about it in terms of behind the scenes. Do you know any others before we start talking about the cast?
Oh, my behind the scenes is more just about the cast. Trust me, I don't think there was any behind the scenes is a bunch of people who wanted to get a paycheck, and this is their crying example of
pretty much.
Careers. with the exception.
Drew Barrymore went on to bigger and better things. Like I said, she had done. Let me get there.
I love Drew Barrymore. And I forgive her for this. I forgive her all her wrongs because I love Drew Barrymore. She was cute as hell as a kid. She's still beautiful. She seems like someone who could be really chill, like you could hang out with. I think and her acting much improved, I will tell you. She can be funny. She's whatever.
Well, like I said, this was still in her comeback trail. A few years later, she posed nude in Playboy, which also kind of brought her back to the world. Directly after doing this, the same year, she's in Wayne's World 2 in like a cameo where she played Björgen Kiergan. That means anything to you. Then she did The Roots of Roe. I have no idea what that is.
Never heard
She did
of that.
Bad Girls. I do remember this. It's about 4 like female outlaws. It was with Madeline Stowe and Mary Stuart Masterson and Annie McDowell.
Oh my God, those are the names right there. The slice of life. No, didn't.
Boys
see
on the
that
Side,
either.
95.
Did see Boys
Mad
on the
Love,
Side.
95. Batman Forever. She had like a cameo as Sugar in 95. But she was starting to get like roles now.
She was getting some heat.
Scream in 96. She had that cameo, like the opening scene.
I'm not sure I've ever seen
that.
Scream.
Is shocking. I'm trying to think what else. Wedding Singer in 98.
Oh my God, I loved Wedding Singer.
But now she's
so
like,
much.
she's Drew Barrymore. You know, now she's Drew Barrymore. By this point, so this is 5 years later, and I literally listed like 3 movies where she was a star and another 3 where she just did a cameo. You know what I mean? So, whatevs.
Oh, and then she did the other Adam Sandler with 50 First Dates or something. I like
blended
that
with Adam Sandler. It's a lot of like, I'm going on vacation with Adam Sandler's family. Let's film a movie, basically.
She's delightful, though. And then there was the one where she goes undercover at the high school and falls in love with the teacher.
Yes.
Never been kissed. They're just delightful bits of fluff.
And that's the thing. It's like early 90s, she was like Lolita, essentially. By the mid to late 90s, she was no longer kind of sex siren. She was just kind of girl next door. It was a real transformation in the way people perceived her. You know, and that's not an easy thing to do. So good on her.
Good on her, because she's delightful.
Delightful.
If Drew Barrymore's in it, I would consider seeing it just because it's Drew Barrymore. And I like
now, the other star of this movie, who we've been calling Faux Paul Rudd, his name is George Newbern. I'm not going to list all of his credits.
How about listen a couple that I heard, that I thought of? But I think you're right. I kept thinking, I know this guy. Why don't I recognize these movies? And then you nailed it, because I think he's Paul Rudd.
His big claim to fame is that he was the groom in the Father of the Bride movies in 91 and 95. Brian McKenzie in the Father of the Bride movies. I'm not going to go through all the other stuff. It's hopeless.
Because it doesn't matter. That's where it peaked, and then it was Third Body, Law and Order. The other character I want to talk about, the other actor, is Dennis Christopher, who played Dr. Heller, the deranged therapist. Oh, Breaking Away!
Yes. He was the cycling movie.
That's right!
Coming of age. That was his big claim to fame.
I saw that at the theater.
Thank you.
Right. He thought he was going somewhere.
He was mistaken. Remember him, man. He was in the TV version of It, and he was the guy who was not famous. He was the guy who was not from Three's Company.
He was not John
He was
Boy.
not Walton's. He was not WKRP in Cincinnati. No, yeah, you're right. He's not John Ritter. He's not John Boy. He's not Venus Flytrap. He's not Harry Anderson. He is not Annette O'Toole. It's like everybody, he's the other guy. He's not Tim Curry. It's basically like a bunch of people you've seen
Poor Tim
in 100
Curry.
things, and then this dude. It's very sad, which explains why a couple years later he was in Doppelganger with straight. Is this straight to video? This has got to be straight to video.
I don't know. I mean, straight to Cinemax, I guess. But I hope he invested well because Breaking Away was huge. He should have
maybe he did, and we just didn't know that. It's a sad situation. Anything else about the cast before we head to the ratings?
Well, I just want to say, poor Drew Barrymore. We mentioned that she was in rehab at 13. She was independent by 14. I was just reading a thing that was basically, she was like managing an apartment at age 14 in some crack den neighborhood, you know, trying to get by, trying to get roles, you know. And her parents are monsters. So it sounds like her parents were very similar. Did you ever see that that miniseries about that Getty kid who got kidnapped? Not the terrible movie, but the miniseries.
Are you talking about Hearst, Patty Hearst?
No. Getty.
Clearly not.
There was a movie called All the Money in the World.
With Kevin Spacey / Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, it was terrible. But the dude who did American Horror Story did a miniseries, which was amazing.
Okay.
What's his name?
Ryan Murphy?
What's his name? American Horror Story. Ryan Murphy did this. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like you got these effed up, free love parents that are all about drugging and drinking and not taking care of your children. And so, but in Drew Barrymore's case, it was like once her mom split with her alcoholic father, now she's just dragging little Drew Barrymore to Studio 54, no babysitters. So drugs are everywhere, alcohol is everywhere, no restrictions, no rules. She was saying like, just being in rehab at age 30, she had all this structure that she'd never had in her entire life. And that's when she knew she needed to get the F away from her crazy mom. But like, obviously, this is her giving her mom a chance to have a role here. And I think through the rest of the last thing I saw that they're no longer speaking, that she had to just cut her out. But I know, just terrible. Poor baby. It must be hard having to work that way. But anyway, Jade wrote this crazy book that I was trying to see if it was on the library at Hoopla. It was like Secrets of Great Lovers of the World. Available
check it
on
out.
Amazon. And while I was deep diving, you could also get giant posters of her mother,
Jade Barrymore,
which were Jade Barrymore on Amazon for $30. Like, I can go get a Depeche Mode poster for $10, or I can get this creepy picture of Drew Barrymore's mom. $30.
It's a bargain. It's twice the price.
It might show up at the Christmas gift exchange. You don't know.
Good Lord. You can still see Drew Barrymore. I believe she's on the Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix these days, where she's a zombie. But, so there you go. So check it out.
I'll check it. I will.
This movie, I looked it up on the tomato meter, Doppelganger, and it does not have enough critic reviews to be judged, but the audience gives it 24% run. So there you go.
Yeah,
we'll judge it. So what's your rating for Doppelganger?
I'm gonna give it 2 Paul Rudds
2 out of 5. I'm gonna give it 1 mask out of 4. Because this movie, this is not a good movie. Well, what makes it mildly amusing is the way it goes off the rails in the final moments. But
the acting is just so stiff and terrible. It is shocking.
Nothing is more shocking than that in this movie. So there you have it.
That's the most disturbing part of the whole movie.
We watched it so you don't have to. So there you have it. Good times had by all. So go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Like, share, subscribe, rate if you have good things to say. You know what I'm saying? You can email us at ThePodcastThatWouldn't Die at Gmail. And Aaron, you were also on Twitter.
The Cult of Aaron. Shout out your requests. We will honor them. Maybe not Cannibal Holocaust. Not zombie. Not anything that's going to.
The fact that we did Doppelganger tells you that we're open for almost anything. Okay.
There have been movies that we watched and then said, nah.
Right. If they're not at least mildly amusing, we got to pull the ripcord. You know what I'm saying?
They have to be entertaining in some way. At least we can make fun of them. It has a chance.
Sweet Jesus. So thank you very much.
Sweet baby Jesus.
Be well.
Wear a mask. Black Lives Matter.